Introduction: why you're not yet rich and why that's about to change. Let me be blunt. The system was never designed to make you rich. From the moment you were born, you've been placed on a path. Go to school, get good grades, land a job, work hard, save a little, retire at 65, maybe. That's the story we're all told. But here's the question no one wants to ask. If that path really worked, why are so many people stuck? Why are millions working harder than ever and still living paycheck to paycheck? You probably felt it. That inner frustration. That quiet voice that whispers late at night. Is this it? Is this all I'm meant for? You work. You grind. You sacrifice. But no matter how much effort you put in, it feels like you're running on a treadmill. Lots of sweat, no real movement. That's not a coincidence. It's by design. And until you learn to think like the 1%, you'll stay stuck in the loop built for the 99%. Let's get something straight. The wealthy don't just work harder. They think differently. They see the world through a completely different lens. Where most see problems, they see opportunities. Where most see a job, they see leverage. Where most spend, they invest. Where most save, they grow. And where most hesitate, they execute. But don't confuse this book for another get-rich-quick scheme. This isn't about overnight success or chasing crypto pumps. This is about rewiring your brain to escape the default blueprint you were handed and creating one that leads to real wealth. Not just financial wealth, but freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you wake up when you want, work on what excites you, and live a life of purpose, not survival. You'll learn why trading time for money is a trap. Why owning assets, not just earning income, is the secret to wealth. Why the people you surround yourself with will either make you rich or keep you broke. You'll see how the 1% uses debt as a tool, while the 99% drown in it. You'll learn to stop reacting and start designing. And no, you don't need to be born in a privilege. You don't need a trust fund. What you need is the mindset strategy, an action plan. That's what this book gives you. If you're ready to break the rules you were taught and embrace the uncomfortable truth. Success isn't about luck. It's about leverage. This book will challenge you. It will make you question long-held beliefs. And if you let it, it will rewire the way you see money, time, work, and your future. You don't need more hustle. You need better decisions and better thinking. This is your wake-up call. You've waited long enough. Let's start thinking like the 1%. Chapter 1. The Trap. Work, pay bills, repeat. You wake up. You scroll. You rush. You work. You get paid. You pay bills. You repeat. Day after day, month after month, year after year. Most people call it life. But if you take a step back, you'll realize it's not a life, it's a trap. This trap doesn't look like one at first. In fact, it's dressed up to look respectable. A stable job, a fixed income, a mortgage, a car payment, student loans, maybe even a vacation once a year if you're lucky. But underneath the surface lies a financial treadmill, a cycle designed to keep you moving, but never moving forward. It starts innocently. You go to school because you're told education is the key. You graduate with debt because that's normal. You take the first job that offers a paycheck because bills can't wait. Then you get promoted, earn a little more, and with every raise, your lifestyle inflates. A nicer car, a bigger apartment, a few subscriptions you forget to cancel. And now you're stuck, living at the edge of your income, too tired to change, too busy to think. The system calls this success. But deep down, you know better. The wealthy don't live this way. They don't survive on earned income alone. They don't sacrifice their health, time, and sanity just to keep up with payments. They own assets. They build cash flow. They multiply their time, while the rest of us trade hours for dollars. Let's be honest. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a thinking problem. They've been trained to believe the cycle is unbreakable. That if you just work harder, things will eventually get better. But hard work doesn't equal wealth. If it did, construction workers and nurses would be millionaires. The truth? The system rewards leverage, not labor. Here's the cold reality. You can't outwork the trap. No matter how many hours you log, you'll always be one emergency away from starting over if you're living paycheck to paycheck. One layoff, one medical bill, one recession. That's all it takes to reset your progress to zero. And that's exactly how the cycle keeps spinning. But here's the good news. Once you see the trap, you can escape it. The first step is awareness. Start questioning everything you were taught about money. Who told you that debt is normal? That renting is throwing money away? That working 40 years to maybe retire is the dream? Who benefits from those beliefs? Spoiler, it's not you. The second step is reprogramming. You must unlearn the script of the 99% and adopt the mindset of the 1%. The wealthy don't ask, how can I afford this? They ask, how can I own this? They don't say, I need more money. They say, I need more assets. This shift isn't just semantic, it's fundamental. Finally, you need a new plan, a strategy designed around freedom, not just survival. One that prioritizes ownership over spending, passive income over active labor, assets over liabilities, and purpose over pressure. This book isn't here to make you feel guilty. It's here to give you clarity. If you're stuck in a cycle, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to break free. The trap only works if you stay blind. But now you see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This chapter is your first act of rebellion, your first crack in the glass. Because the real secret of the 1% isn't that they're smarter. It's that they refuse to play the same game as everyone else. And now, so can you. Chapter 2, Scarcity Thinking versus Strategic Thinking. Most people never question the way they think about money. They just assume their thoughts are facts. Money is hard to make. There's never enough. If I spend less, I'll eventually get ahead. These aren't truths. They're mental scripts, and they're rooted in a mindset of scarcity. Scarcity thinking is the default operating system of the 99%. It's a mindset built on fear, limitation, and survival. It tells you there's only so much to go around, so you must cling tightly to what little you have. It whispers that wealth is a zero-sum game. For someone to win, someone else has to lose. So you play it safe. You hoard. You downsize your dreams to fit your paycheck. But the 1%, they operate from a different mental software. Strategic thinking. This mindset is rooted in abundance, leverage, and long-term vision. Instead of asking, what can I cut? They ask, what can I build? Instead of reacting to scarcity, they respond with strategy. Where scarcity sees problems, strategy sees patterns, positioning, and possibility. Let's break this down. A scarcity thinker gets a $5,000 bonus and says, better put this in savings before something bad happens. A strategic thinker asks, how can I turn this $5,000 into recurring income? One sees protection, the other sees potential. Scarcity says, I can't afford that. Strategy says, how can I create the value needed to afford that? Scarcity clings to comfort. Strategy embraces growth, even when it's uncomfortable. This mental difference shows up everywhere. In careers, scarcity thinkers chase job security. Strategic thinkers build value and position themselves as irreplaceable. In investing, scarcity thinkers avoid risk entirely. Strategic thinkers learn how to manage risk and use it as fuel for growth. In business, scarcity thinkers obsess over cost-cutting. Strategic thinkers obsess over value creation. The most dangerous part of scarcity thinking is that it feels responsible. Society praises frugality, caution, and living within your means. And yes, discipline is important, but it must be paired with vision. Living within your means is just the beginning. The goal is to expand your means, not shrink your dreams. Ask yourself, where in your life are you operating from scarcity? Are you delaying decisions because of fear? Playing small to stay safe? Undervaluing yourself because you think it's not the right time? If so, know this: the 1% didn't wait for the perfect moment. They made strategic moves while everyone else was paralyzed by caution. Strategic thinkers understand that wealth isn't random. It's built. It's the result of positioning, timing, leverage, and bold decision-making. It requires seeing the game 2, 3, 10 moves ahead. That's why most people miss it. They're too busy reacting to today to plan for tomorrow. But here's the power. strategy can be learned. It's not a genetic trait. It's a skill set. And this book is your training ground. Every chapter from here forward is a blueprint to shift you out of reaction mode and into strategy mode. You'll learn how to think in decades, not days. How to design wealth, not hope for it. How to become the kind of person who makes power moves, not safe ones. The 1% aren't playing with better cards. They're just playing a different game. And it starts with the way they think. So from this point on, here's your rule. Catch scarcity in the act. Anytime you feel fear, hesitation, or lack, ask yourself, am I thinking like the 99% right now? Or like the 1%? That single question can change everything. Chapter 3. Don't trade time for money. The wealth equation. If you're still trading your time for money, you're playing a losing game. It sounds harsh, but it's the truth. For most people, income is directly tied to effort. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. You work 40 hours, you earn a paycheck. Stop working? No income. That's the reality for the majority. And it's also the core limitation that keeps the 99% stuck. There's a brutal ceiling on how many hours you can work. Even if you're grinding 12-hour days, 6 days a week, your income is capped. Why? Because you're exchanging your most limited asset, your time, for money. And time, unlike money, is non-renewable. Once it's gone, it's gone. Now, compare that with how the 1% operate. They've understood something fundamental. Wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how much you own that earns for you. Their income isn't limited to their hours. It's multiplied through assets, systems, teams, and capital. Let's talk about the wealth equation. For most people, the formula looks like this. Income equals time times effort. That formula is broken. It leads to burnout, not freedom. The wealthy use a different one. Wealth equals value times leverage. Let that sink in. The 1% don't just focus on doing more. They focus on creating more value and applying more leverage. So what does leverage look like? Money. Your capital works for you in investments, earning while you sleep. People, teams, contractors, or employees help you scale beyond your personal capacity. Media. One idea can reach millions through YouTube, podcasts, books, or content. Technology, systems, and software allow you to automate, replicate, and multiply your impact. The goal isn't to hustle harder. It's to create systems that keep producing even when you're not present. That is real freedom. Let's take a simple example. Imagine two people. One is a freelancer who charges $50 per hour. The other builds an online course based on the same skill and sells it for $200. The freelancer is limited by hours in a day. The course creator? Unlimited scale. She sells while she sleeps. She doesn't trade time. She creates products that carry her value forward. Now, multiply that concept. Stocks that pay dividends. Real estate that generates rent. Businesses that grow without you. Intellectual property that keeps earning. The 1% design income streams that are not handcuffed to their schedule. Of course, it takes time to build these systems. It requires upfront work, smart thinking, and sometimes capital. But the shift begins with a decision. To stop chasing active income and start building passive engines. Here's a wake-up call. If your income stops when you stop working, you're not wealthy. You're just temporarily comfortable. Even high earners fall into this trap. Doctors, lawyers, consultants, they might make 6 or even 7 figures, but they're still stuck in a time-for-money model. They're rich in income, but poor in time. And eventually, burnout catches up. The wealthy don't ask, how much can I earn this month? They ask, how can I set up systems that pay me for years? This is the pivot point. From here on, your job is to start identifying ways to multiply your time through leverage. Can you turn a service into a product? A skill into an asset? An idea into income? The moment you stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a builder, you'll realize this truth. Wealth isn't earned, it's engineered. The 1% aren't just working smarter. They're playing by an entirely different equation. Chapter 4. Build assets, not just income. Let's make one thing clear. Income doesn't equal wealth. Most people spend their lives chasing higher income, thinking it will buy them freedom. But income alone, no matter how big, is temporary. It disappears the moment you stop working. Wealth, on the other hand, is built through assets. And that's where the game changes. Assets are the secret weapons of the 1%. While the 99% focus on making more money, the 1% focus on owning things that make money for them. Assets work when you don't. They grow while you sleep. They pay you in the background of your life, regardless of where you are or what you're doing. So what exactly is an asset? An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket without you having to trade your time for it. That includes rental properties that pay you monthly rent, dividend-paying stocks that reward you just for holding them, businesses that operate without your daily involvement, intellectual property like books, courses, or digital products, even online content that continues to generate ad revenue. Contrast that with what most people spend money on: liabilities. Things that take money out of your pocket: cars, gadgets, bigger houses, credit card debt. They might look good on the outside, but they don't help you build freedom. In fact, they often lock you deeper into the rat race. Here's the truth. The middle class buys liabilities and calls them assets. They say, "My house is an asset," but they're still paying a mortgage. They say, "My car is an investment," but it loses value every year. Meanwhile, the 1% are quietly stacking cash-flowing properties, revenue-generating businesses, and appreciating assets. Let's put it into perspective. You can make $200,000 per year and still be broke if your lifestyle eats it all up. Or you could earn $50,000 per year in passive income and be financially free. It's not about how much you make, it's about what you own. Building assets requires patience, discipline, and a shift in mindset. It means learning to delay gratification, to invest before you spend, to prioritize ownership over consumption. Most people say, "I'll invest once I have extra." The 1% say, "I invest first. That's how I create the extra." This doesn't mean you have to start with millions. You can begin with small moves. Automate a portion of your paycheck into index funds. Learn a monetizable skill and turn it into a product. Start a side hustle that can grow into a business. Buy a book, course, or mentorship instead of another luxury item. Every dollar you spend is a vote for your future. Are you voting for short-term pleasure or long-term freedom? Here's a mantra to live by. If it doesn't pay me, I don't prioritize it. That one mindset shift can completely alter your financial trajectory. The wealthy understand this. You don't get rich by working more. You get rich by owning more. When you focus on acquiring income-producing assets, you slowly decouple your time from your income. That's the pathway to true freedom. So stop asking how much you earn. Start asking what you own that earns for you. Because income fades, but assets last. Chapter 5. Master the rules of the wealth game. Most people are playing the wrong game, and they don't even know it. They spend their lives following rules that were never designed to make them rich. They save diligently, budget carefully, work hard, and hope one day it'll all pay off. But here's the problem. They're playing by rules built for survival, not wealth. Let's make this clear. The game of wealth is real. It has rules. It has strategies. And like any game, if you don't know them, you'll lose, even if you think you're doing everything right. So what are the actual rules of the wealth game that the 1% play by? Rule number 1, money is a tool, not a goal. The middle class sees money as the end goal. The wealthy see it as a tool to create leverage. Money isn't something to worship or fear. It's something to deploy strategically. They ask, how can this dollar create 10 more? Every dollar is an employee. And if it's not working for you, you're wasting its potential. Rule number 2, the system is rigged. Learn to use it. Taxes, debt, inflation, these aren't just obstacles. For the wealthy, they're tools. While most people avoid debt like a virus, the 1% use good debt to buy cash-flowing assets, while others fear inflation. The 1% hedge it by owning real estate and equities. And taxes? They structure their income in ways that legally minimize tax liability, using corporations, write-offs, and investment vehicles most people never learn about. It's not cheating. It's understanding the system. Because, make no mistake, the system rewards ownership, not labor. Rule number 3. Wealth is built in decades, not days. The get-rich-quick mindset kills more dreams than failure ever could. The wealthy play the long game. They think in decades, not weekends. They're willing to plant seeds today that may not bloom for years because they understand the power of compounding, both in money and in effort. Ask yourself, are you making decisions for short-term comfort or long-term freedom? The 1% sacrifice now so they can live fully later. The 99% do the opposite. Rule number 4. Position is more important than performance. This one shocks most people. The average person thinks success comes from working harder or performing better. But the wealthy know it's not just about effort. It's about positioning. Where are you in the value chain? Are you the consumer, the employee, the middleman, or the owner? The closer you are to ownership and control, the more wealth flows your way, regardless of how hard you work. Rule number 5. Information is leverage, but only when applied. There's no shortage of information today. What's rare is execution. The wealthy invest in mentorship, books, masterminds, not just for knowledge, but for frameworks and access. They don't wait for free YouTube videos to tell them what to do. They pay to compress time. But more importantly, they act on what they learn. They move fast, test, refine, and adjust on the fly. Knowledge is only power when it's applied. Here's the truth. No one wins a game they don't understand. And no one dominates a game they don't study. Most people were taught to be good employees, not powerful players. That's why they struggle, even if they work hard. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It just wasn't designed for you to win unless you know how to shift roles, from pawn to player, from labor to leverage. But the moment you decide to learn the rules, the real rules, you stop being a victim of the game and start mastering it. So ask yourself, are you working harder or just playing by the wrong rules? Because once you learn the rules of the 1%, you never look at money or life the same way again. Chapter 6. How the 1% think about risk. To the average person, risk is something to be avoided. It's dangerous, unpredictable, and filled with uncertainty. It's the thing that can make you lose money, status, or security. That's why most people play it safe, get the stable job, follow the proven path, avoid anything that might not work. But here's the paradox. Avoiding risk is often the riskiest thing you can do. The 1% don't fear risk. They study it. They manage it. And most importantly, they embrace the right kind of risk, the kind that leads to exponential rewards. That mindset is one of the greatest differences between those who stay stuck and those who build real wealth. Let's be clear. The wealthy don't just blindly take chances. They're not reckless gamblers. They're calculated risk takers. They know that behind every breakthrough is a moment of uncertainty, and they've trained themselves to lean into it, not run from it. So how exactly do they think about risk differently? 1. They see risk as an investment in growth. Most people see risk as something to survive. The wealthy see it as a requirement for progress. Want a bigger life, bigger wealth, bigger impact? It will always come with uncertainty. You can't expand your life without expanding your tolerance for the unknown. Every business, investment, or leap forward has an element of risk. But without it, there is no change, no freedom, no upside. Staying safe is the slowest way to go broke, mentally, emotionally, and financially. 2. They redefine what safe means. To the 99%, a 9 to 5 job feels safe. A regular paycheck feels safe. But is it really? You can be laid off at any time. Your income is capped by someone else. Your future is tied to a company's success, not your own effort. That's not safety. That's dependency disguised as security. The 1% defines safe differently. To them, real safety comes from control. Control over your time. Control over your income. Control over your future. Owning assets, building businesses, creating systems. That's what creates true security. It may look riskier on the surface, but in the long run, it's far more stable than relying on a single paycheck. 3. They focus on asymmetric risk. Here's a powerful concept the wealthy live by. Asymmetric risk. It means betting on things where the potential upside far outweighs the downside. Risk $1 to make $10. Spend 3 months building something that could pay you for 3 years. Make a bold move that could unlock opportunities you'd never get by playing small. The wealthy are constantly asking, what's the worst that could happen? And what's the best that could happen? If the upside is huge and the downside is manageable, they go for it. That's how empires are built. Not through guarantees, but through intelligent bets. 4. They trust their ability to adapt. The biggest reason people avoid risk? They don't trust themselves. They fear failure because they fear they won't know what to do if things go wrong. The wealthy have a different belief. Even if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out. That confidence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from experience, from failing, learning, adjusting, and trying again. Over time, they've built resilience, and that becomes their greatest asset in risk-taking. 5. They separate emotion from decision. Fear is natural, but letting fear drive your choices is what keeps you stuck. The wealthy feel fear like everyone else, but they don't let it rule them. They make decisions based on data, probability, and long-term vision, not temporary emotions. They've trained themselves to zoom out, to ask, will this matter in 5 years? Instead of, what if I'm uncomfortable for 5 days? The biggest risk isn't taking action. The biggest risk is regret. Regret that you didn't try. Regret that you played it safe. Regret that you let fear write your story instead of vision. The 1% win not because they avoid risk, but because they take the right risks. So the next time you face a choice, don't ask, is this risky? Ask instead, is the risk of doing nothing even greater? Chapter 7. The Power of Ownership and Equity. If you want to think like the 1%, you need to stop asking, how much can I earn? And start asking, what can I own? This single shift from income to ownership is the dividing line between the wealthy and everyone else. Most people spend their entire lives trading time for money. They sell hours. They chase promotions. They increase their salary in increments. But the truth is, no one becomes wealthy by earning alone. Wealth comes from owning assets that grow and produce income without your constant effort. Let's break this down. 1. The game is ownership, not labor. The economy isn't built on workers. It's built on owners. Every company has employees, and then it has shareholders. Guess who gets paid long after the work is done? Employees get a paycheck. Shareholders get dividends, equity, and appreciation. Think of it like this. When you work, you're renting your time. When you own, you're building something that continues to pay you, even when you're sleeping. This is why the 1% focus obsessively on acquiring equity. They want a stake in something, businesses, real estate, intellectual property, investments, because ownership is what multiplies wealth over time. 2. Equity means leverage. Let's say you earn $100,000 a year. That's your income. But what if you own 10% of a business that earns $1 million a year? That's $100,000 in equity income, and you didn't have to work for every dollar of it. That's the power of leverage. Equity allows you to benefit from the efforts, capital, and systems of others. It separates your income from your time. This is how the 1% escape the grind. They build or buy assets that work harder than they do. 3. Start where you are, but think bigger. You might be thinking, I don't have money to invest, or I'm not in a position to own anything. That's okay. Ownership isn't about where you start. It's about how you think. Maybe you start with a small stake in a startup, a side business you build on weekends, a rental property you save for, a personal brand that generates passive income. Whatever it is, the key is to own something, anything, and then grow it, because over time, that small stake can turn into a life-changing asset. For equity can be built, not just bought. Here's a secret the 1% know. You don't always need money to gain equity. Sometimes, you can trade skill for shares. Sweat equity. You bring value, marketing, strategy, systems, and in return, you get a piece of the pie. Many successful entrepreneurs started by working for equity in early-stage companies before they ever had capital to invest. The point is, you can earn your way into ownership if you know how to create value. 5. Stop building other people's dreams without a stake. If you're working full-time to grow someone else's company, and you don't own a piece of it, you're giving away your most valuable asset, your time. Now, this doesn't mean quit your job tomorrow, but it does mean start thinking like an owner. Even if you're an employee, ask, can I earn equity as part of my compensation? What can I build on the side that I own 100%? Am I creating a future or just collecting a paycheck? When you begin to value ownership over income, your decisions change. You move from security to scalability, from short-term comfort to long-term freedom. The wealthy don't chase money, they chase assets. They don't dream of higher salaries, they dream of scalable systems. And they don't work harder just to earn more. They work smarter to own more. So the next time you're faced with a financial decision, don't just ask, what's the pay? Ask, what's the equity? Because in the end, it's not what you earn, it's what you own that determines your freedom. Chapter 8. The invisible cost of staying comfortable. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They don't fail because they don't have opportunities. They fail because they choose comfort over growth again and again. Comfort is seductive. It feels safe, familiar, painless. But comfort has a hidden cost, and it's one that most people never calculate until it's too late. It quietly drains potential, dreams, and time without ever feeling like a threat. If you want to think like the 1%, you must learn to see comfort for what it really is, a silent killer of ambition. 1. Comfort is the enemy of progress. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. You already know that. But what most people underestimate is just how strong the pull of comfort is, and how it disguises itself as logic. I'll wait until things calm down. This isn't the right time. Maybe I'm not ready yet. These aren't rational thoughts. They're defense mechanisms designed to keep you from doing anything that feels risky, vulnerable, or unknown. But the truth is, growth only happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable on purpose. Every breakthrough, financial, emotional, physical, requires you to lean into discomfort and do the hard thing anyway. 2. The comfort zone is a trap, not a reward. Here's the trap. We're taught that the goal is to get comfortable. That success means finally being able to relax, chill, and coast. But the 1% know that comfort is not the reward. It's the beginning of decline. Look at any industry leader, athlete, or entrepreneur. The moment they get complacent, they start losing. Innovation dies. Hunger fades. Edges get dull. The wealthy, the powerful, the truly successful, they train themselves to stay sharp, stay humble, and stay uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. 3. Comfort creates mental fog. Comfort doesn't just stall your progress. It dulls your instincts. It lowers your standards. It makes you accept good enough instead of what's possible. Think about it. When was the last time you made a bold decision from a place of total ease? You didn't. Big moves happen when something inside you says, this can't be it. I need more. That discomfort is fuel, if you learn to use it instead of suppress it. The 1% don't numb discomfort. They listen to it. They recognize that tension is a sign of growth, and they run toward it, not away. 4. Staying comfortable is the most expensive choice. It doesn't feel expensive in the moment. Watching Netflix instead of reading. Staying in the job you hate instead of learning a new skill. Avoiding hard conversations. Skipping the gym. Postponing the business idea. But add up those decisions over 10, 20, 30 years. The cost is massive. Not just in money, but in regret, missed opportunity, and a life half-lived. The wealthy look at choices differently. They ask, what's the cost of not doing this? What will it cost me in 5 years if I stay here? They understand that avoiding discomfort now often means paying a heavier price later. 5. Learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. The difference between those who thrive and those who settle isn't talent. It's tolerance for discomfort. It's being willing to do what others won't for long enough to earn what others never will. Show up when it's inconvenient. Speak up when it's scary. Keep going when it's boring. That's how wealth is built. Not in moments of ease, but in moments of grit. You weren't made to be comfortable. You were made to grow. And growth hurts. It's messy. It's slow. But it's also the most rewarding path you'll ever take. So next time you feel discomfort, don't retreat. Don't numb it. Lean in. It's a sign you're on the right path. Because the 1% didn't get there by staying comfortable. They got there by choosing discomfort with purpose again and again. Chapter 9. Environment is everything. You can have the best intentions, the strongest goals, the most detailed plans, but if your environment doesn't support your growth, you'll always be fighting an uphill battle. The 1% knows something that the rest often ignore. Success is rarely just about willpower. It's about environment, where you are, who you're with, what you consume. These factors shape your future more than you realize. Let's dig into why environment is either your greatest asset or your greatest enemy. 1. You become what surrounds you. Have you ever noticed how your mindset shifts depending on who you spend time with? Spend time with people who complain, make excuses, and stay stuck, and you'll feel justified doing the same. Spend time with ambitious, focused, purpose-driven people, and suddenly you think bigger. Move faster. Demand more of yourself. That's not a coincidence. It's because environment is contagious. We mirror what's around us, consciously or not. That's why the wealthy choose their environment deliberately. They curate who and what gets access to their minds. They understand that proximity is power. If you want to grow, the question isn't just, what should I do? It's also, who do I need to stop spending time with? What do I need to stop showing up? 2. Habits are environmental, not just personal. Think you're bad at discipline? Maybe. But more likely, you're just in the wrong environment. A cluttered space creates mental noise. A fridge full of junk makes healthy eating harder. A workplace filled with distractions kills deep focus. Willpower eventually runs out. But environment? It shapes you automatically. The 1% don't rely on motivation. They design systems around them that make success easier and failure harder. They don't just work harder. They work smarter by crafting environments that reinforce their values. Want to get serious about your goals? Look around your physical and digital space and ask, does this space reflect who I want to become? Are my surroundings pulling me forward or holding me back? 3. Upgrade your circle. Upgrade your thinking. One of the fastest ways to elevate your life is to elevate your circle. The 1% actively seek out communities where they're not the smartest person in the room, on purpose. They want to be stretched, challenged, inspired. Because they know, comfortable circles create stagnant lives. Here's the test. If your closest friends wouldn't call you out when you're playing small, you need new friends. If your conversations are always about gossip, problems, and drama, instead of ideas, opportunities, and growth, it's time to level up. Your circle should scare you a little, make you reach, make you feel behind in the best way. 4. Environment isn't just people, it's everything you consume. Your mental environment matters just as much as your physical one. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you scrolling? Every input is programming your mind. If you're constantly consuming noise, fear, negativity, or shallow content, don't be surprised when your thinking reflects the same. The 1% treat their mind like prime real estate. They guard it. They feed it with intention. They're not just scrolling, they're studying, learning, growing. You can't build a 1% life with a 99% feed. 5. You don't need to escape. You need to build new spaces. Don't wait until you're rich to change your environment. Change your environment so you can become rich. Even if your current circumstances aren't ideal, you can start making micro shifts. Rearranging your workspace for clarity. Spending more time with people who uplift you. Joining online communities that stretch you. Replacing mindless media with intentional learning. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And those systems are built in your environment. Your future is hidden in your surroundings. So if you're serious about thinking like the 1%, don't just look forward. Look around. Because when you change your environment, you change your life. Chapter 10. Money moves the 1%, make that others don't. The difference between the wealthy and the struggling isn't just how much money they have. It's what they do with it. While most people trade time for money, spend before they save, and chase comfort over growth. The 1% play a completely different game. A strategic one. A long game. They don't just earn money. They position it, protect it, and multiply it. Let's explore the moves they make that set them apart from the rest. 1. They buy assets, not liabilities. The average person spends money on things that look rich: designer clothes, new cars, big houses. The wealthy? They spend money on things that make them richer: real estate, businesses, intellectual property, investments. In other words, they don't just make purchases, they make moves. Every dollar has a job, either to grow or to generate more dollars. If it doesn't do that, it's a liability. This is the golden rule of the 1%. Don't work for money. Make money work for you. 2. They invest early and aggressively. Most people wait until they have enough to invest. The wealthy invest to have enough, whether it's stocks, real estate, or startups. The 1% prioritize investing, even if it means delaying gratification in the short term. They understand the power of compound growth. That time in the market beats timing the market. That every dollar not invested is a missed opportunity. They ask, how can I turn $1,000 into $2,000, then into $10,000? While others ask, how can I spend this on something I want today? 3. They use debt strategically. Debt scares most people, and for good reason. When misused, it destroys. But the wealthy don't fear debt. They use it as leverage. They borrow to buy appreciating assets, not depreciating stuff. They use other people's money, OPM, to build wealth. While many get trapped in consumer debt, the 1% focus on productive debt, mortgages on rental properties, capital for scaling businesses, or low-interest loans that free up liquidity for better investments. They ask, will this debt help me grow wealth? If not, they avoid it. If yes, they use it powerfully, for they automate and protect their wealth. The 1% know that consistency beats intensity. That's why they set up automated systems, automatic investments into index funds or portfolios, auto pays to eliminate late fees and build credit, scheduled donations to causes they support, and for tax strategy. They don't rely on memory or motivation. They build habits into their financial systems. They also protect their money with insurance, trusts, and smart legal structures, while others wing it. The wealthy build financial moats. 5. They think in decades, not days. Most people think in days, weeks, or months. The wealthy think in decades. They don't ask, what's the fastest way to get rich? They ask, what's the most sustainable way to build wealth for generations? They delay gratification. They accept temporary discomfort. They trust the process. This long-term thinking is their edge. They're not reacting, they're architecting. 6. They stay financially educated. Finally, the 1% never stop learning about money. They read. They listen to financial podcasts. They talk to advisors. They study trends. They don't outsource their financial literacy. They take ownership of it because they understand, if you don't know how money works, you'll always work for someone who does. Money doesn't make you wealthy. Thinking like the wealthy makes you wealthy. And it starts with adopting the mindset of the 1%. Spend less than you earn. Invest what you save. Buy time, not toys. Make long-term moves over short-term highs. You don't need millions to start thinking like the wealthy. But if you start thinking like the wealthy, millions may eventually follow. Chapter 11. Mastering Emotional Control. The silent power of the 1%. There's a reason why the 1% often look calm when others panic, patient when others rush, and focused when others get distracted. It's not because they're less emotional. It's because they've trained themselves to respond, not react. Emotional control isn't about being robotic. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't let their emotions run their decisions, especially when it matters most. This is one of the unseen superpowers that separates the successful from the struggling. 1. Emotional reactions are expensive. Let's be clear, emotions are not the enemy, but uncontrolled emotions? They cost time, money, and peace. Making a hasty investment because of FOMO. Quitting a project after one bad day. Burning bridges in anger. Overspending for instant comfort. freezing in fear instead of taking the next step. Each of these is an emotional decision, and emotional decisions often carry permanent consequences. The 1% learn a pause. They give space between the stimulus and the response. They ask, is this an emotional reflex or a conscious move? That pause? It's where power lives. 2. The 1% don't avoid stress. They channel it. We all feel pressure, but the top 1% don't let stress shrink them. They let it refine them. When things get hard, they lean in. They don't blame circumstances. They double down on what they can control. Their focus, their preparation, their decisions, their inner state. They use stress as a signal, not a stop sign. Where others say, this is too much, they say, this is my edge. 3. Delayed gratification equals emotional mastery. At its core, wealth building is a game of delayed gratification. Can you say no to the impulse buy today so you can invest it instead? Can you keep going when your results aren't instant? Can you commit to boring routines that produce exponential returns over time? This discipline requires emotional control. It's not exciting, but it's powerful. The 1% have trained themselves to feel the craving and still say no, to feel the frustration and still keep going, to feel the fear and take the leap anyway. That's not suppression. That's sovereignty. 4. Emotional intelligence makes or breaks relationships. No one builds wealth alone. You'll need partnerships, clients, teammates, investors, mentors, and all of that runs on emotional intelligence. The ability to read a room, to listen without ego, to hold space without defensiveness, to influence without manipulation. The 1% are students of people. They know when to push, when to pause, when to empathize, and when to challenge. They don't let their emotions hijack crucial relationships. They master the art of staying grounded, even when others aren't. 5. Create rituals that regulate you. Mastery isn't born in crisis, it's trained in rhythm. The wealthiest people build emotional regulation into their routines. Morning solitude or meditation. Journaling to clarify thoughts. Physical movement to release stress. Regular reflection to learn from emotion. Not get lost in it. They don't just try to stay calm when things get crazy. They practice calm every single day, so when the storm hits, they've already built their shelter. Your emotions are powerful, but you are more powerful. Emotional control isn't about being cold. It's about being in charge. Because the person who can control their inner world can shape any outer world they choose. The 1% know this. Money comes and goes. Opportunities rise and fall. But the one constant? You, and how you choose to respond. Chapter 12. Playing the infinite game. Building legacy, not just lifestyle. Most people are playing to win today. The 1%, they're playing a game with no finish line. They've stopped chasing the temporary high of looking successful. Instead, they pursue something far deeper, far more meaningful: legacy. This chapter is not just about money. It's about meaning. It's about escaping the endless cycle of chasing more and finally aligning with something that matters beyond yourself. 1. Lifestyle ends with you. Legacy begins with others. A lifestyle is how you live. A legacy is what lives after you. You can build the nicest home, drive the most expensive car, take the dream vacations, and still leave nothing behind but invoices and photos. But build a business that creates jobs, mentor someone who changes a generation, write something that shifts minds, and you've built something that outlasts you. The 1% think about impact, not just income. They ask, what will I leave behind that makes someone else's life better? 2. Legacy requires long-term thinking. Legacy doesn't come from instant gratification. It comes from deliberate, repeated, often unseen action over time. The people who build legacies aren't obsessed with next week. They're thinking in decades. They invest in their values, their vision, and the systems that sustain both. They make decisions not for the applause of today, but for the impact on tomorrow. They understand, I may not see all the fruit of the seeds I plant, and that's okay, because their ego isn't in the spotlight. It's in the soil. 3. Legacy is built through people, not just products. Too many chase wealth thinking it's about what they can collect. The wealthy realize it's about what they can cultivate, especially in others. A leader who inspires. A parent who raises independent thinkers. A teacher who unlocks hidden genius. A founder who empowers a new generation of creators. The 1% build people, and in return, people build their legacy. You won't be remembered for what you had. You'll be remembered for how you made others feel and what you helped them become. 4. Systems create sustainability. Legacy isn't just a passion project. It's a repeatable, durable system. The 1% don't just rely on motivation. They create mechanisms, trusts, and foundations to continue their mission. Companies that thrive beyond their leadership. Content that educates for generations. Cultures that protect values when they're gone. They ask, how do I remove myself from the center and still keep the vision alive? This is why they're not afraid to let go, because they've already put the structure in place. 5. Your legacy begins now. You don't have to be rich to start thinking like the 1%. You just have to shift your timeline and your intention. What story do you want your life to tell? Who will benefit from the choices you make today? What seed can you plant, even if you won't live to see it bloom? Legacy is not about size. It's about significance. You don't have to change the whole world, just someone's world. You were never meant to just survive. You were born to build something that outlives you. Start small. Stay consistent. Play the long game. Because once you shift from chasing lifestyle to crafting legacy, you're not just thinking like the 1%. You become one of them. Conclusion. The power was always yours. You've made it to the end, but if this book did its job, something deeper has just begun. A shift in how you see yourself, your potential, your time, and your wealth. You no longer have to settle for survival mode. You no longer have to follow the crowd, chase every trend, or live trapped in the loop of just getting by. The 1% don't have more luck. They don't have some hidden genetic code. What they do have is this, a different way of thinking, choosing, and building. You now know that wealth isn't about money. It's about control over your time and choices. That escaping the cycle starts with one decision: to stop outsourcing your life. That the habits, environments, and mindsets you allow will either empower or enslave you. That chasing lifestyle limits you, but building legacy sets you free. None of this happens overnight, but it starts right now with what you choose to believe, do, and invest in from this moment forward. You are the architect of your future. If you take one thing from this book, let it be this. You don't need permission to live differently. You just need the courage to begin. You already have what the 99% overlook: clarity, discipline, focus, vision, responsibility, and most of all, the willingness to think long-term in a short-term world. So as you close these pages, remember this. The top 1% isn't a place, it's a mindset. And the moment you decide to live with purpose, build with intention, and act with ownership, you're already one of them. Keep thinking bigger. Keep choosing boldly. Keep building what matters. Your legacy starts now.